like to call tonight's Conservation Commission meeting to order. The first item we have on our agenda is the open session citizen concerns. So if somebody in the public, if somebody from the public has a question or concern or comment for us, just give us your name and address and we'll entertain those now. All right, we don't have any this evening, so we'll proceed on to the regulatory hearings. The first item we had on tonight's agenda was a request for an amended order of conditions that had been continued from January 10th, 2023. The applicant was the town of Chelmsford. It was related to Freeman Lake. We do have news on that in a development. The applicant, the town of Chelmsford, has now withdrawn the notice of intent. So the notice of intent has been withdrawn. Any additional comments you would like to make?
Just the remainder of the contract funds will be used to update the assessment, the lake assessment that was done back in 1995. I don't know if everyone saw a copy of that, but the consensus is that that's the appropriate way to go at this point, rather than do another filing at this time just to get a new assessment done, and then a comprehensive lake management plan, and then maybe a filing after that, depending on how those things turn out.
Okay. Dave, I take it you will manage that process?
Well,
DPW manage it?
I'll be involved, but yeah, I think DPW is going to take the lead, certainly in terms of going out with requests for proposals and so on. But I mean, I'll certainly be involved. So at this point, it's just a matter of taking a vote to close the hearing.
Okay, well, let's take a vote then to close the hearing. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So move.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do we do anything else, or we're good, right? We're good. Okay.
Can I-
Yeah, Peter.
Can we have a chance to take a look at that scope of work, do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been drafted yet. Anything has been started, but absolutely.
Remember, Pete, we can't tell the applicant what to do.
Right,
We can only evaluate what they want to do.
right. Yeah, I would work through David or through the commission. I wouldn't go too far on my own.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, very good. Okay. Next on tonight's agenda is the notice of intent filing by DIV Riverneck LLC. That had been continued from January 10, 2023 with respect to 191, 195, 199, and 201 Riverneck Road. But I also have a note here that the applicant has requested a continuance to February 14th.
That's true.
Do we know
Yep.
why?
I think the primary motivation for the request for the continuance is the tomorrow night's upcoming planning board meeting. I think that they wanted to focus primarily on that. It was also to give me more time to send a draft and send out a request for proposals for the additional peer review, to witness the soil testing and, possibly follow-up review to that. So, which I'm in the process of doing.
Chris, have you been asked to go before the planning board, or you guys decided you wanted to do it?
I got asked. I got a note from Evan Polanski indicating that the planning board wished that, Carl and I would be able to go. Carl's got a conflict, so
Do
I'm
you
going to
know
go.
what they're going to query you on?
I think they're going to ask me probably a question about the legal issue raised by the abutters as far as the possible unlawful filling.
Which
in
we don't
wetlands.
have any information on.
We have really nothing yet. It's off to town council for town council review, and David's going to get the town council some more information.
Yes, I'm still in the process of drafting that email request to town council. I'm almost finished. I should be able to get that out tomorrow. On a related note, though, I do have some letters expressing gratitude to the commission for being agreeable to request that opinion from council, so can
Well, pass those
down.
around. Pass those around by all means. So if we could have a motion then to continue to our next meeting, which is on Valentine's Day, February 14th.
I move we continue the hearing for 191, 195, 199, and 201 River Neck Road, and our meeting on February 14th, 2023.
Thanks, Dave. And seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Carl? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. All right, well, thanks very much. So that takes us through our regulatory hearings. That's quite different from our last meeting, which I think we spent 2.5 hours on our regulatory hearings last time we met, but that's good for a change.
We're not complaining.
Yeah, we're not complaining at all. And, but it gave our newest member, Peter, a chance to get some quick exposure to the Concom hearing process, so it was good.
Well.
All right, next up for, on the agenda is discussion items. We have a note here with respect to map 92/block 337, lot 3, Littleton Road. Some possible violations out there. Donald St. John and Conservation Agent David, you want to kind of,
Yes, I'll just give a little bit of brief background on what's transpired since the last meeting. I don't think I gave a report on this at the last meeting. But I did have an on-site meeting with Mr. St. John, who's here tonight, along with his representative. I did advise him at that time that he did need to get the wetlands delineated and put on a survey plan. And my understanding is he has hired MacArthur Environmental Consulting, and I believe Susan is here tonight to work on that. She can certainly give a status update. She may not have been able to get started yet, given the season and the weather. I think that the decision that I'd like the commission to make tonight, if possible, is what kind of a filing that the commission would like Mr. St. John to do. I think if the commission is agreeable to, at least in concept, allowing the work that Mr. St. John did, if the commission is agreeable to approving that, I think that could be done with an after-the-fact RDA filing. If the commission is not agreeable to letting him put in that access, then I think it's a matter of issuing an enforcement order to remove what he's done and restore it back to what it was before. I think in any case, that even if the commission is agreeable to an RDA filing for the access, that there is a restoration component there, that there was soil pushed down toward the wetlands, right to the edge of the wetlands. So the 25-foot no disturb setback was disturbed. I mean, there was work in that, but I think that can be that restoration of that area can be part of the RDA filing if that's the route the commission decides to go.
okay, thanks, David. Susan, are you out there?
I am. Hi.
Great, good.
Yes, so what David said, Mr. St. John has retained my services to delineate the wetlands at the property. Due to inclement weather, as you know, it's been snowing since, I think I was retained like last week, so I haven't had a chance to get out there. I was waiting for a little meltdown. Doesn't look like it's coming anytime in the near future, but I'm hoping to get out maybe the end of next week if possible.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad you've been retained. It's good news. Let's see if the commissioners have some questions or comments. Maybe we'll start down at the to my left. John?
I disagree.
I really don't have anything.
Okay, all right.
I mean, we just got to go through and see what's delineated
Yeah.
and stuff. And,
Yeah.
have it brought back to the 25 feet, so I guess we'll wait and see, right?
Well, do you have a sense of whether you'd prefer that to be an RDA or a notice of intent? I think it can be done through an RDA filing,
Okay.
in my opinion. I mean, it was basically just a matter of, Donald, what did you put down out there? Was it just some crushed stone?
You're muted, Donald. Hit the
Oh,
mute.
there I am, yeah. Yes, I just put down some crushed stone, yeah, for the entranceway.
Along with some soil disturbance. I think that involved a little bit of soil excavation, and also there was some soil pushed down toward the edge of the wetlands. Would it be okay if the Conservation Commission did a site visit? I mean, that could probably wait until the hearing, in any case, so.
Okay, good. All right, so, John, you're good for now?
Yeah.
Good, yeah. Peter, any
Yeah.
comments yet, questions?
No comments. I like the idea of a site visit.
Yeah,
Drove by it, but didn't walk around.
yeah. I'll just comment, I mean, I think an RDA could work with obviously like a restoration type component, but, particularly if, it sounds like we're getting cooperation, professional assistance from your engineer, consultant, so that could work out well. Pass it on to Dave.
What do you intend to do with the property?
Really nothing at all. Nothing at all right now. I just wanted to be able to get access to the property to go in and I kind of like it over there. It's tranquil, and just wanted to be able to get in a little easier access. Before we put the crushed stone down, I had to go over a hill and get into the property, and entering and exiting the property was kind of dangerous. That's a busy road there. So really nothing much at all, just getting into the property to take in all the sites over there.
So you don't have plans to store material there?
No.
We have a bylaw regulation that says when there's snow on the ground that wetland delineation should wait until April. And I would not, I don't think we should ask the applicant to incur money now if they can't effectively do a wetland delineation.
I agree. I mean, I'd hate to have to go back out, so it would probably be best to wait till,
Yeah,
like you said.
it's maybe earlier than April because the weather's a bit warmer, but yeah.
Right.
That's a good point, Dave, I think. Good point.
Is that site going to have difficult access from Littleton Road? Because of the traffic?
Well, now it sounds like there's the access drive that he created, so I guess I can, we can pull off in there.
I mean, I get rear-ended on Littleton Road, so the traffic isn't that good.
Yeah.
Well, there is enough room, once you get the vehicle in, there's plenty of room for a number of vehicles, but
But I meant coming back out of the site.
you probably shouldn't back out.
Line of sight to the right
Yeah.
and left is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
that's all I had. Good.
Hey, thanks, Devin. Bill?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to wait till spring
Good,
for a site walk and for delineation.
good. All right. Mark?
Yeah, it seems kind of silly, anything that's going to go in there, you're not going to be able to do anything, but it's his money.
Yeah,
Let him go ahead and spend the way he wants to.
yeah. Okay,
I'm done.
all right. Carl?
Nothing to add.
Okay, David, anything more? All right, good. All right, so I guess, I kind of like the suggestion of tabling things and kind of continue to, April, in, when we could actually get out there and look around. So I guess, do we need a motion, Mr. Agent?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. I guess if the commission is willing to leave it up to Susan's discretion when she thinks conditions are best for a delineation.
All right.
David, how about can I just contact you after I get out there, when the weather's decent, I can let you know, and then maybe you can put us on the agenda for, or at least just tell the commission, and in the process, we'll pick up the
Lost her.
We lost your audio.
RDA.
Up your back.
Okay, that sounds good, Susan.
All right,
Thank you.
Susan, we'll go with that plan then, follow up with our agent, and we'll see you when the weather's better.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
And thank you, Mr. St. John, as well.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right, next on tonight's agenda is Mary Avenue stormwater runoff issue that was raised. Let's see, I think I see Mr. Harvey present there in the back, no?
Yes,
Yes,
yes, he's
good,
here. But I
good.
thought Mr. Haidar was going to be here,
Good.
and I don't see him. He
And
was-
that, just to refresh people, we got St. John's Church out there, North Chelmsford, and Mr. Harvey's had some development going on, kind of upgrading up on the slope. And, I don't know, David, got an update for us?
Sure. So I met out on site with Mr. Harvey and Joseph Hyder and his brother, whose name I don't remember.
Daniel,
quite
I think, perhaps?
Dan, yes.
Dan, yeah.
So they represented themselves as representing the church. Apparently, they do snow plowing. So yeah, they indicated quite definitely to me that they were not accusing Mr. Harvey or pointing the finger at that development. They said that they do have a definite problem with water getting, I think, several feet deep in their parking lot. Mr. Hyder indicated to me, and it's entirely plausible, that a lot of that is coming off of Middlesex Avenue or Middlesex Road.
Really? So it's
Yeah.
going the other way?
Yeah, it's, and you can see, I mean, there's a very perceptible slope downward toward the wetlands from Middlesex. Mr. Hyder initially requested permission to dig out that wetland, make it deeper to improve its flood storage capacity. I indicated that that was not acceptable under the Wetlands Protection Act. So I did advise him that the church needed to hire an engineer to develop a stormwater management plan for the site. And I believe he indicated that that was going to be done. I thought he was going to be here tonight to talk about it, in more detail and, confirm that that's, the action they were taking, but.
Okay.
So is there someone suggesting there's runoff from Mr. Harvey's property into the parking lot, or is it all coming from Middlesex Street?
I don't know if anyone was suggesting that
Because in
there
the
was.
original order of conditions, Mr. Harvey was required to, and did, I think, build out the area at the end of the road
Yes,
to be a stormwater detention or retention area.
yes, and
I-
that's,
I-
and that looks
That
like
has
it's pretty
been
well
done,
complete.
right?
Yeah, it just, he's waiting for the final coat to be put on the road before it's actually, made fully operational. But again, Mr. Hyder repeated a number of times that the problem was not from that development, it was, coming from the other side.
Because that parking lot was built long before the current stormwater management practices.
Yes.
I'm not surprised to hear it coming off of Middlesex Street.
What's different from 20 years ago? Why wasn't this a problem 20 years ago? Or maybe it was.
Probably was.
There was always water there.
Oh, okay.
And there may be more water running on to Middlesex. And Mr. Hyder seems to be very well aware of the situation up there and why there's been an increase in runoff on the Middlesex. I thought he was going to be here tonight to talk about it.
All right. So it sounds like next steps, we'd have to hear from Mr. Hyder then, and,
Or the church.
or the
The church
church.
is filing a
Yeah.
notice of intent.
So it sounds like the, the
Is
action's
this
on
also a
them.
matter for the new stormwater division? That's DPW?
Yeah, I mean, it probably will need the permit under the stormwater bylaw, yeah.
Yeah, good point, Dave. Okay, well, anything else to be said? Mr. Harvey, anything you want to add for us? No? Okay, we're good then. I think we're good. So thanks for the update. We'll wait to hear more from the church then. All right, well, thank you.
Don't hold your breath.
All right, next up, is, for discussion, is 129-0823. This was 11 Cushing Place, post-construction review. And we have Donna Reddy, the Grist Mill Condominium Association. So let's just get a quick update. David, kind of tell us what's going on.
So, just to follow up some of the discussions that the commission has had in previous meetings regarding sort of ultimately closing out this particular filing and getting a certificate of compliance. I met with Donna, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. Cindy. I met with Donna and Cindy, I think it was that late November. We met out on site and took a look at the property, the current condition. I went back and reviewed the notice of intent filing and the minutes. What was referenced in both the in the minutes and in the notice of intent as well was that there would be an invasive management plan, an invasive management protocol developed. I haven't been able to find that yet. I'll go back and search for it in the office files, but I believe the association is agreeable to that. To managing the invasive management.
Well, yeah, can I?
So,
get
sure.
up and speak?
Yeah, come on up, Donna.
Thank you. We did meet with David. We wanted to, as I told you before, when we came before you to remove the dead tree that we had, that we were willing to come back and have a complete discussion with you about our property, and that we are willing to see what we can work out for a plan. And the invasives are there. I realize that we have some, and we need to develop something. So we wanted to first come back here, have a discussion with you people, find out from you exactly what it is that is on your minds, so that we could go back and bring this to our residents for, them to understand what we're doing, what the situation is. So when we met with David, we walked the whole back of the trail that's there, from the bike trap path all the way down to the culvert. We tried to look and see what were the kinds of things that were out there. We were quite surprised at the condition of it, but, again, we left it to some extent to say, let's find out from you what you would like done. Some of it is rather costly to take care of, and we do not have the money or the means that a builder would have. So we're here just as good citizens who want to take care of their property, and we want to hear from you.
So I think the way we kind of left it at the site visit, or what we attentively agreed on, was that that I would meet with your landscaper and work with him, see what he felt was reasonable in terms of getting rid of the junk, trash, and debris that was out there that he was able to do with the means he had available. So I think that the next step would, sometime this spring would be to meet with him and, reach an agreement, an understanding of exactly, the stuff. I mean, there's clearly some really big items out there that would need a crane to remove.
Invasives, Dave?
No, talking about the junk, slash, and debris. So I probably should have said that the two issues were the invasives, and I believe there's already a plan that was developed for that. So I need to find that in the file. Then the other part of it was just cleaning up, the riverfront area, the area down by the brook, and there is still a lot of stuff that. Ideally should be removed.
Is the stuff natural or man-made?
No, it's man-made. There's man-made items. Again, I think.
Because I don't have a problem with natural material deteriorating and falling on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Unless perhaps it's going to change the flow of the stream.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
But I do have a problem with man-made trash being disposed in the property.
Yep. But I think some of the items are so large that it would be quite expensive to remove them from the site. I mean, it really should have been, it could have and should have been done at the time the construction was done. Not sure why it wasn't, but there's nothing, I could find nothing in the notice of intent that proposed that. There's nothing in the order of conditions. So that's kind of where things stand at this point. If the commission is agreeable to leaving the really big stuff out there, but having an understanding that the smaller stuff, whatever that is to be determined, would be removed.
What is the nature of the bigger stuff? Does anybody, I mean, it's not car batteries, is it?
No. It's some very large concrete blocks and a large, like half a culvert, I think, that's concrete.
Somebody dumped the stuff as a
It
fill
could
site.
have been there for a very long, long time. Not something that maybe was even put there by the builder that we had. We can't be sure because it's had other prior owners.
Yeah.
But the concrete blocks, anything concrete, is not affecting the flow of the brook. It's not really contaminating anything. Is just sitting there. At first you would think maybe it's just a rock, a big rock, but then you realize it's not. So what we were talking about and looking at was more things like trash that had been left there or has accumulated there. Who knows? It could have come down the brook and been left behind. We can be cleaning up that kind of thing on the brook area.
Like I think there's some smaller pieces of concrete, pieces of asphalt.
Things that can be lifted and taken out in a reasonable, ability is what we were looking at, not trying to remove a concrete block that's that big. It would truly take, a huge crane to get it out of there, and a lot of money.
Well, let's just see if the commissioners have some questions here. We'll just kind of roll down, maybe start, Carl, down your end, if you could.
Is there a possibility to have access from the other side now that they're in construction? Would that help? Get a crane?
We have not been in any discussions with the
But is
present
it more
owner.
open from that side than?
That's a good question. In other words, would it be easier to access from the other side? I'm not sure.
The concrete blocks are really on, I would say, the side of the brook closest to the building.
Yeah, I have-
Not the other side of the building, and so it would be much further away. The pictures that you're looking at now, I just wanted to, first, was going to come back here to say thank you for letting us remove the dead tree, and we have averted any kind of disaster of people getting harmed or any property being harmed. I want to thank Marquee Tree Company. They were professional. They were wonderful. The people who own the Gentle Arms Daily, who allowed us to use to vacate their parking lot just for liability purposes, for Jack Hanley and Bobby Moulton, who allowed us to use the parking lot by our building. They did a fabulous job. They cut the tree down in sections, brought it back down into the parking lot, where they cleaned up the area. You would have never known that they were there by the time they were done. And there's a picture of the stump that was left behind, the big stump, we didn't take all of them, where nothing had been disturbed around it. So that we made sure that the brook's integrity was still there. We tried to do a good job, so we appreciate that you allowed us to do that. We also, at that time, agreed to come back and talk to you about the brook. We really care about our property. We want to take care of our property. We want to be good citizens within reason.
So my recollection is, if you look at this photo, and
Yeah.
I'm got the cursor. My recollection is that the really large concrete block and the large section of the culvert is down and back there. If you walk down this walkway, it's down toward the other end of the property.
Yes, I was going to say not this end of the building, the other end of the building.
And I don't know, does the parking area go around the other side of the building?
No.
I'm trying to remember.
There is a turnaround that's there for purposes of large trucks, like trash trucks, et cetera, ambulances or fire trucks to turn around in. But there is no parking per se.
I see.
The only other thing I would say is, I believe there's a number of Norway maples in that area, and I guess I would like to see that the young ones are taken out, the saplings. The bigger ones, leave them be. What I'm trying to make sure it doesn't happen is that they keep going down the rail trail, because when you step inside the beginning of the rail trail just beyond your site,
Yeah.
it's full of Norway maples, and we own part of that property. I think the land trust is right there, if I'm not mistaken, and then there's private property on the right. But they're starting to move down, and they push out the native trees. And so what I would ask is the saplings and the new ones to try to keep them out. The bigger ones, leave them be, but you'll be doing that for a long time, because they're very prolific.
So I'll see if I can find the invasive species management protocol. That may very well include management of the Norway maples and that. See if I can dig that up.
Okay.
Saplings are easy to deal with, but they'll keep coming back.
All right, good. All right, Mark?
We keep on coming back to this. I don't think I've ever got an answer. Was the COC signed off on this
It was
original
not.
builder?
It has
So
not
all the
been
stuff
issued.
that we're putting on the tenants or the association isn't your problem. It's the developer's problem.
On the other hand, we couldn't seem to find any kind of order of conditions that were attached to our deed, so
There's a lot on the plan. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we're just consumers. We
No, I understand.
purchase property.
That's why I said that.
We assumed that the town did their due diligence in doing the inspectional services that should have been done to give them an occupancy permit. So I assumed when I was purchasing my unit that everything was okay, and that I was purchasing something that I did not have to worry about. I could just enjoy the beauty of the brook, okay? So I know you're mad at the builder, but we're not
There's
the
a number
builder.
of items that never been completed, never been started. There's a pedestrian walkway that goes across that brook on Jack Hanley's side. That was never constructed. That's in the plan.
I thought that was to be done by the town.
No, he
I
was
know
gonna
the road
build
has
it,
not been
town
done
was
by
gonna-
the town.
I'm sorry?
The road has not been done by the town,
Right.
and my understanding was that they were going to do that too.
No, they were gonna build it, and the town was gonna maintain it.
Okay.
The catch base, I mean, the head wall was a bone of contention for a while, too. That was supposed to be constructed similar to what was there, and it's not. It's just riprap on the ground there, coming out. The items like that. So I don't know what we can do to get any kind of satisfaction with the developer. The units all been sold, and they're being resold.
It can't be resold without a certificate of compliance.
Well, they are being resold.
How can that happen?
Because my understanding is at least there's no
Usually,
order of conditions that's been attached to our deed.
Well, I think the order was recorded. I'll double check that, but I'm quite sure it was recorded. Have you had a title search done?
We've tried to work on that, yes.
I mean, it really should have been recorded. I mean, no
Maybe
doubt
it should
about
have been. We're just not sure there is one there.
I'll look into that.
Okay?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. This has come up a number of times recently, where units in other condo associations have been sold, and an open order of conditions has been found on the property, and it has caused problems for the closing. So it's conceivable that that could happen. at some time in the future. So really should get a certificate of compliance.
I'm not sure how we do that, since we will not be able to fulfill whatever it is that the builder was asked to do.
I don't know what the remedy is. I have no idea. That's all I got.
Right. No, good question. I don't know. I mean, David, you might not have an answer for us now, but maybe there's something you can look into and
Well, it's
back to us later. If there's
it's-
any options that we have in this type of scenario.
I mean, really, the bottom line is that the order of conditions goes with the property. That ultimately, it's the property owner's responsibility. I mean, the property owner can try to get the developer, the original applicant, but there isn't the legal leverage there, you know, if push comes to shove. And there may be some other requests for certificates of compliance that are coming in where there may be the same issue, you know, that it's not in compliance, and, you know, who is going to bring it into compliance. So.
Yeah. I mean, I just think we want to be as fair as we can to these folks. I mean, I'm kind of sympathetic, as you said. You're not, you know, you're not a big construction company. You got
Right.
the homeowners, so.
Right.
I mean, I think we want to do as much as we can reasonably, and it sounds like you want to do what you can, but you don't want to get out there and start renting cranes and doing a lot of heavy
Right.
construction.
You know, we just don't have that kind of monitoring means, nor do, I mean, we went out of our way to get the crane for the tree, but we felt this was important. We didn't want it falling on our
Safety,
building.
yeah.
It was a safety issue, which is the reason why we came before you. And once we came here, we felt attacked because we had no idea that this was going to transpire. I would have let the tree stay there then and not shown up here. I would have said, okay, let's let sleeping dogs lie, but here we are, okay? So we need to find out from you what is exactly you would like of us. We'd like a kind of a priority list. We'll try to set up a plan, and we need to go back and talk to our residents, explain the situation to them, and see what we can do. But again, we're not going to do some of the things that you were saying that you were mad at the builder for, because that's just astronomically impossible. And I'm not sure where the remedy is. Obviously, he had to put a bond up. Was the bond money returned?
We didn't
Because
have a-
I should
we
be able
didn't-
to access that
Yeah,
money.
Planning may
Yeah.
have, but
I mean,
conservation
planning
did
board
not.
might have, but we don't have
Conservation
any
did not have
bonds
a bond.
with Concom.
I think it was. I can double check on that.
The money was returned.
I think it was.
So,
can
I mean, we have no recourse.
Unbelievable. I'm sympathetic to you. I'm not.
Thank you.
It's just, it's so much frustration.
Right, right, and we, you know, and we're not, our frustration is really kind of at the circumstances, kind of what happened, and really with the builder, and not like with you folks as homeowners.
I was kind of coming at it from the angle that, well, if the invasives were managed, you know, in
Yeah.
perpetuity, and that the reasonably sized junk / debris was removed from the brook area, that, you know, hopefully that would be sufficient for the commission to issue the certificate of compliance. I mean, another approach is just to never issue it, but.
Let's move along down the line. Mark, you good for now?
Done.
All right. Kelly?
Can we come up with a list of things that weren't done? Like the footbridge or whatever wasn't done?
There's-
And then,
There's two lists of things, Billy. There's one list that would have been in our order of conditions. The other list, as I understand it, is an understanding between the commission and the builder as to what he would do for us. And I don't believe that was ever put in writing.
Correct. Correct.
well, we may not have too much leverage with that one.
That's right.
I
But
mean, there's something in the minutes about that, but that.
it was not in the order. The things that Mark is talking about, not all of them, but not the walkway and the street, but you had mentioned a couple of things in prior discussions with Donna, that you believed that the developer had promised he would do. that have not been
I've had,
done.
I had 3 meetings with Jay out there.
Right, but they're not in the order of conditions.
I mean,
That's a dilemma.
Right, I mean, there's really nothing in the order of conditions. I mean, the only thing really in the order of conditions is a reference to the plans. So whatever was shown on the approved plans and by way of construction, yeah, that's kind of binding, but there was nothing else. I mean, there was really nothing formally about invasives. There was nothing formally in the order about removing, trash and that kind of stuff. Again, it's in the minutes that it was discussed at the hearing, but, no formal requirements ever made it into the order of conditions.
Well, what on the plans wasn't done? Is there anything on the plans that,
Well, I don't know for sure. It sounds like what Mark just mentioned about the head wall. I mean, there's probably something shown on the plans in that regard, and my guess is Mark is probably correct, is that it shows a head wall rather than riprap. I'd have to go back and review that,
Pedestrian
more
bridge
detail.
was part of the project.
And I can check and see if that's on the plan.
could you do that? Sure. Just come up with a list of what's on the plan. The stuff that was talked about on site or informally, we may not have any recourse with that. I appreciate you coming in, and you're putting in a tough spot. But as far as that stuff, maybe there's some things that you just let go. I mean, maybe it's not worth rebuilding the head wall. Maybe it's, whatever. I don't know until I see the list. But let's try and work with them. And as far as the things you were talking about, I'm fine with you meeting with the landscaper and going over the small things that you can clean up, get that out of the way. That's easy. The other stuff we have to look at and make, it's common sense. If you can't do it now and it wasn't done right the way it was supposed to be done in the first place, you have to decide whether you fight it or you look at it and move on. I don't know. But if you can come up with a list of things that weren't done on the plan. And, the things that are in the minutes that was talked about, let's just see what that was all about, too, because I remember things discussed at the meetings that were never done, too.
Well, and what was in the minutes was the invasives, which again, the engineer said that, a plan would be forthcoming, so see if I can dig that out.
Right.
And then just cleaning up the riverfront area. Those are the two things that.
Yeah, let's find out what we're
mentioned.
talking about, then we can make decisions based on that, and just, it's gonna be common sense and what makes sense of it now. So, you can't crucify people who had nothing to do with it. Do the best you can. That's it.
All right, thanks, Bill. Dave?
I think, from what I've heard tonight, there are 3 issues. One issue is the uncertainty surrounding the order of conditions and certificate of compliance, which has to be addressed. The second area is what I would call one-off major cleanup activity on the site. By one-off, I mean it gets done and it's done. It may take 1 year, it may take 10 years. I'm not even talking about the time. And then the third one is a continuing annual invasive management program. Is your condo association going to have any volunteers that will do any work on the site? Or are you going to look to landscapers and subcontractors?
The present
to do the
time,
work?
we only have used our landscaper. We're also concerned about liability. If we're asking people to go down embankments and go near the brook and what they're going to be doing down there.
Your property.
So, well, yes, it is. But the thoughts of looking into volunteers has crossed our minds. Perhaps we can get people to help us.
The reason
but-
I ask is the third of those 3 things that I mentioned are consistent with an annual plan that does not take a lot of work.
Yeah.
It just takes attention to it.
Yeah.
As Carl mentioned, pulling up saplings once you know what they are
Yeah.
is not a big deal, but you got to do it, because if you don't do it, they grow. With regard to the second thing that I meant, so I would suggest that with the invasive management, that you try to see how many units are in the?
32.
if you could get 10 people who had some interest, now it's easier said than done, I understand. We know what it's like to get volunteers. But if you could get a small group that took an interest in that kind of thing, I mean, there is a bit of a science to invasive management, as we all know. And we're doing some work ourselves in conservation land on having invasive management plans for our reservations. Once you get the site started, it's something that goes every year, and you don't expect it to be done. It never is done, because the next year, some of those invasives will grow back.
Yeah.
You never get rid of all of the invasives. With regard to the second issue, that's why at the outside I asked, what's the nature of the material? I don't care if it takes 10 years to clean it up, if eventually it is cleaned up. And frankly, I don't care if it's cleaned up, if it's not damaging the environment. If you just mentioned cement blocks and stuff. Unless somebody tells me those cement blocks, they may look terrible, unless someone tells me they're damaging the environment,
Right.
over time, maybe stuff will grow up around them, right? If you're in there doing something else.
Invasives. Is what grows up around them.
Right, invasive. But if you're in there doing some other project,
Yeah.
and you happen to have equipment in there, you might pull out some of this stuff we're talking about. Okay, the first one, to me, is a more important issue. I am upset that it is not, our order of conditions don't appear to be clear, and that there does not appear to be adequate certificate of compliance. I'm not gonna blame anybody for it, but we need to get that paperwork. We need to be able to see, did the Conservation Commission issue a proper order of conditions? And what happened to it? Because we can't, and I take it no certificate of compliances have been issued to any unit?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Which to me says that that the work was never done. Because the minute the work gets done, somebody wants the first certificate of compliance. Because technically, if the order of conditions is on file and there is no certificate of compliance, you can't sell your unit. Right?
Except we sold 3 in there.
But you see, but if someone could not find an order of conditions,
Correct.
then there would be no requirement for a certificate of compliance.
I would be really surprised if it wasn't recorded.
I agree
mean,
with
it's
you,
certainly,
David.
it's
I agree
certainly
with-
possible.
And
I agree with you, Dave.
David can quickly, the online tools they have with the Registry of Deeds these days, you don't have to go down like the old days. He's going to be able to go online, and he's going to be able to very quickly see if the order of conditions is on record or not, and let us know. So we'll get an answer to that.
Now, if the order of conditions is on file, then a question is asked, whose responsibility is it to see that the items in the order of conditions are complied with? Is it the developer, or was it the individual homeowners? The developer, from what I gather, has walked away from the project, which is not, and that's not a criticism, that's usually what a developer does after, the first year or something, I don't know. I don't know how condos work. And so then we have to ask ourselves, if we're not gonna hold Jay responsible, and I don't know how we would, what are we gonna do? But I think we need to address them in 3 different projects. The latter one is probably the easiest one, the invasive management one. It's having a plan that is signed off and then having people follow the plan. That's not a big deal. It does take resources. The second one is a big deal from a cost perspective, at least from what I heard you guys say. And I'm willing to live with that one on a one-off basis over time. The first one, to me, right now, is the more important and the more complicated. And Chris, and you being a lawyer, your comment about why it should be easy to find, I'll defer to you.
We'll get an answer on
I'll
that.
defer to you on that,
At
right?
least that part. We'll get an answer on that.
Yeah, that won't take long. That
No,
won't take
David will
long.
track that down. So good comments, Dave, appreciate it. So just a couple things, Don, again, appreciate you working with us, and please, we're never here to attack like citizens that come in front of us, so please, we try hard. We get sometimes passionate about this stuff, but we never do. We appreciate Chris Mill coming in and working with us. And so, number one, I mean, the invasives, sounds like we'll be able to come up with a plan with you guys that I'm sure can work out with our agent around that, and everybody wins from controlling the invasives, It's, so we can get that done moving forward. Trash too, again, the paper bags, the trash bags, the trash stuff out there, it's bad for, everybody. So, and to Dave McLaughlin's point, it doesn't take a lot of volunteers on an annual basis to go out on a Saturday morning and kind of pick up some of the trash and the plastics and styrofoam and that stuff, and it's a good thing to do. So that's it. Some of the other issues, I think we're going to see where we go with that, but those are my thoughts. Moving on to Peter, our newest member.
Hi.
Hello, Peter.
Interesting to hear some of the history being the new guy, but I just wanted to throw on my environmental engineering hat and state the obvious, that between your development and the rail trail and the pocket park behind the new steakhouse, that brook, I think, is going to continue to be pretty important to people in the town, just because it's of the history and all that. So my thought is just, there's all the regulatory stuff we got to comply with, yes, but my thought is, let's just think about that whole brook area with the new little pocket park, I guess, is that the right word, Carl? Across the street and the rail trail. Let's just think about that whole strip of stream as we make decisions.
I don't think anybody's in the town is moving ahead on the master plan for the center of town. That's where it is. That's where the big walkway was.
They have some huge plans, I've
Well, they
heard,
got plans, but I don't, there was $5 million sitting on the governor's desk for 5 years that he never released for the center of town. It still hasn't been released. So I don't know that we'll ever see that happen.
Yeah, which I guess really is just my way of saying a chunk of concrete is different than a bunch of invasive species that are having an impact on the habitat and the beauty. So that's all. Just look at the whole picture as we make decisions, would be my thought.
But honestly, it's a beautiful spot and a great
It is.
resource for the.
It is.
It is beautiful. My unit overlooks the brook, and I think it's lovely. I think it's a beautiful vista. And again, we all in our building care about what it looks like and what's going on. And yes, we can, our thoughts tonight were to come to you and find out from you what it is that you are willing, from what you would like from us, and what we can together make happen, all right? We're going to go back to our people. We're going to try to develop a plan. We will, after we develop that plan, and as David said, some of it may take longer than a year, we will at least come up with something that we can work together on, that we can happen. But right now, we just want to know, what are your priorities? I'd like to have a copy of any of these emails that were out there, any order of conditions if they exist, because I have yet to see anything yet. I hear a lot of people telling me what transpired in meetings, et cetera, but I have not seen anything. The only thing that David has given us is one email in which it was with Win Stanley, which was the builder prior to Jay. So I need to know, well, what is it was discussed while Cates and Finnegan were building this building and proposing?
I can bring up the minutes quickly, if anyone wants to see those.
Well, we'd like you to send us that,
Let's
because...
just get the minutes out. Share any documentation we can.
Yeah, we would like to have it shared with us.
Share that with Donna and the.
Right, we need to be able to share that with us. We need to be able to bring that to our landscaper, who I expect to do some work, because there are some things that I don't expect the residents to do.
Do you have a sense of how much man-made debris is on the site that you think should be removed? Are we talking about one piece of cement or 500 pieces?
No, not 500. I would guess maybe, 15 smaller pieces.
A dozen to 15, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's my recollection when we were out there, that those are of a size that could be reasonably removed.
Right, I mean, there's something you could put in, a bucket, or a large enough rock you could lift and get out of there.
Yeah.
The pieces that really are too big to take out are huge. And I would say there's about 3.
Can you cover them?
We could paint them green.
I won't go that far.
Dig a hole beside it and put.
I mean, I would not disturb the land around them. I would not do anything with it, leave them there. They're just man-made rocks.
You're right.
Honestly, that's how I would look at it too, man-made rocks,
You
you know.
you can't put equipment in a brook to take a rock out. You're gonna cause
Right.
more damage.
Exactly.
You're gonna
No,
cause
pull
more
it out- You
damage.
pull it out from the top.
You can't.
You pull it out.
Well, it also leaves the ground underneath unstable. You don't know what's going to happen once they are into the earth, and the culvert would destroy the embankment.
Let's
It's
not,
a
I don't think this
half-round
discussion is
looking thing.
worthwhile at all, because we don't know what she's talking about. I'm not saying you don't know what you're talking about, but we certainly don't know it.
We didn't take pictures that day. We just,
Right. Well, we can get some pictures too. John, we're kind of coming to the end of the discussion. Anything different you want to kind of highlight for us here?
I'm just gonna touch on the other side of the brook, where the new development's going.
yes.
Did you ever make an agreement with the people that they could
We
sort of
did
clean that up?
not. That builder didn't really want to make an agreement with us.
Oh, okay.
It kind of died
Because
on
you
their
own
side.
that.
We own all the way up to the
Right.
existing building or just about to
Yeah.
that.
All the streams on your
It's-
property, right?
Right,
Yeah,
correct. On the other hand, I do want to say that there is, from what I could see, not a lot of debris on the other side. I mean, we will go across the brook and we'll ask for access down there. I know
Right.
that Bobby Bolton will let us access it from his parking lot where the Gentle Arms are located. But there isn't a lot, really. that we
That's
can
right.
see over there.
The main interest in working on your property on that side of the brook was, again, invasive management.
Right.
It's the evasives, that's, I know we all looked at that night we were all out there.
Right, and
Would've been
perhaps
nice.
we can access that information to be able to use it to our advantage in the future. We'll see how it all
I think
turns
the
out.
prior owner did a lot of work over there, Hanley. He did a lot of cleanup there.
Who?
Hanley,
Well,
he did a lot of cleanup along his side of the brook.
well, but he doesn't own
I understand.
very much of it.
Right.
He only owns where the
He used to
parking
clean
lot
it up
is.
anyway, so.
And he's gone over there and done that, although I will say that there are more dead trees over on that side. But I hesitate to come and ask to remove those, so we're gonna let them be. They're not as big.
Wildlife loves dead trees.
It's good habitat.
Yeah, yeah. People parking there don't always like them, so
I understand.
we'll have to see what happens from there.
Tell them to look for the woodpeckers.
Woodpeckers, yeah.
I'm
So-
actually serious.
So, Donna, we've got 7 commissioners here.
I know.
And we don't always agree, and everybody's got somewhat divergent opinions. But I mean, I think there's a pattern of kind of, you can see the concerns and comments. So I mean, I hope that this discussion and feedback and dialogue is a benefit. So you know better kind of where the 7 of us
Yeah.
are coming from, right? Okay, good. So I think for next steps, it would be good for you to kind of follow up, and Dave, for you to follow up with Donna and Gristmill Condo, and kind of put something down in writing on a piece of paper. And it doesn't have to be too complex, like maybe a 1 or 2 page memorandum that kind of says, this is what we're gonna do. And then we kind of maybe get that back here and signed off by everybody, hey, this is what we're gonna do.
Okay.
You know, and it could be like phase 1, phase 2, or whatever, but like get something on paper. So then not only have you gotten our verbal kind of feedback, but we get something in writing that's memorialized, so we can come back to it and say, hey, we agreed to do this, you know?
Okay.
We need to do something about the order of conditions, though, because.
Well, he's gonna get a copy of those order conditions.
All right.
He's gonna get that to the commissioners, and we're gonna get it to Gristmill Condo as well.
Please.
So everybody can look at that and see what's there.
Right,
a
because
list
when
from the
somebody wants to
plans.
sell a condo, you want to make it easy for everybody. So we need the paperwork.
Yeah.
Because, and have it, make sure, see if it's recorded or not recorded. If it isn't, it needs to be. Just clean all that up. That's,
We need to understand why there's been 3 transactions and this hasn't come up.
Well, I can tell you what happened. It's, I put it on the conveyancing attorney, you know?
Right.
The conveyancing attorney's got the legal obligation to go out there and do a full title check. And if that thing, and I guarantee, I put you 100 to 1 that order conditions is recorded, they should pick that up, and they should be following up on that. But,
Yep, you're absolutely right, Chris.
happens.
Depends on the closing attorney.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
much diligence they
You know.
want to do.
yeah. But anyway, we'll get an answer to that and find out what happened.
Okay.
But we're going to be, like, at the end of the day, we want to be fair to you guys, too,
Thank
You
you.
guys are homeowners, taxpayers here in
Yes.
town, you're not like conglomerate building
No,
type
we're-
things, so we're not going to put any, like, terrible burdens on you. We just kind of want to get some answers, and then also kind of work together to do the right thing.
Again, that's what we had said we were willing to do, is to come here and work with you. I don't think there can be any kind of a plan put together much before, say, April or May, because obviously, for the same reasons as the last people you were discussing,
Yeah.
we have no way of going out there and seeing. We had to wait till November for Dave to come out and be able to see,
Yeah.
once the vegetation had died, to even see what was out there.
Oh, you're right.
So, the chances, but that would give you enough time to get all that paperwork to us, so that we will know what we're dealing with, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to our people and formulate a plan.
It would be good if I could, similar to what you just mentioned in November, Don, if I could meet with your landscaper prior to, full leaf out or before,
Right, but-
it's fully vegetated.
Yeah, that makes sense, but
Yeah.
obviously not till probably April, maybe, but
Yes.
when we're sure that, things are going to start growing and we want to catch it before that, yeah.
So, and I'll see if I can dig up the invasive management plan. It should be there somewhere. Again, the applicant's representative promised it at the hearing. So if we don't have it, see if I can get it from her.
Okay.
So, but I'll be in touch.
That would be nice. I really appreciate it. Again, we're just citizens, consumers who purchased a piece of property and, did not expect this kind of situation because we felt the town had done their due diligence and we had occupancy permits, so we assumed that everything was done correctly. So, or agreed to change. I wasn't there when the sausage was made, so it can change. The recipe can change over time. Okay, well, I thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Donna. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This just shows you what we need to do on other conditions. If we have these discussions with people, and even if it's on site or whatever's discussed, it has to be in that order of conditions so that we can follow up with it.
Absolutely, and in all of my order of conditions, it explicitly says that neither all or a portion of the property can be conveyed without me reviewing a draft deed that
Right.
references an open order of conditions.
Right. And I think when the order of conditions were written, these things weren't taken into consideration and put into it. It was just very vague, and somebody didn't follow up on things like Mark's talking about, that walkway. I mean, those are big items that should have been addressed, and it got lost in the shuffle.
Yep.
Went through
Well-
the cracks of somebody, and things that, should have been done weren't done.
Well, if none of the units could have been conveyed without these issues being addressed, that would have given the commission the leverage to have them addressed.
Right, and I feel like a lot of it, some of this is, on us for not following up. On a project like this, we got to look at the order conditions and make sure everything's in there and make sure everything's done correctly before it's issued. Before the certificate's issued.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And because you're coming back and you're trying to redo something that's already, the horse has left the barn on this one.
But
You know?
isn't it also true that what you're saying should be put in the order of conditions?
Yes.
Like a handshake doesn't mean too much.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. There was things talked about, and I remember those discussions, and
Didn't make it
about,
in.
and they never got in.
Oh,
It was
that's
a
why-
lot of promises made at the time to get the project approved, and you took people's word,
Right.
and you assumed it was gonna be done, and you just, things got lost.
Well, we'll be able to look at the order of conditions.
So next
and then-
time, we can't let that happen.
Well, we're going to look at the order of conditions in this one. We'll compare that to the minutes, and we'll see the gaps. And like you said, though, I mean, you can't kind of, you can't just sign kind of a blank order of conditions form. You got to see, you got to see it.
And be specific with the
Yeah.
things you're saying, not, if
Well-
you're saying you're gonna do take care of some blocks. Well,
Yeah.
be specific in what we're asking for, because now people come back and it's not on, I mean, they're innocent of
But it's
the,
going to be interesting to see what the order of conditions says.
Well, I have seen the order of conditions.
Oh, you have?
The one that got issued, I
What
haven't.
did it say?
used-
Did it cover any
there's-
of these
there's-
details?
there-
Nothing.
There's nothing at all. There's nothing at
Nothing
all
there.
in it about
All
an
right, so-
invasive management plan,
Yeah.
nothing in it about removing trash and other junk from the riverfront area.
Well, there you
It's
go.
pretty
So,
much,
Bill,
it's
there you go to your
boilerplate.
point.
right, and that's wrong, and it's not on them, that's not their
No.
fault.
Right.
No.
And it's not the
No, we
contractor
can't
either,
hold
in a
them,
way.
we can't
In a way.
hold
Right.
them,
I mean,
and we
it's-
can't hold them to do it now.
It's whoever wrote the order of conditions.
You say to him, meet the order conditions, he's like,
Yeah, I did,
I did,
Right.
show me
Right.
on the list.
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So, hope we learn from this one.
There's nothing to hold their feet to the fire, really, you know?
But I think we need to straighten out that order of condition, make sure that it's registered, and so going forward, when people go to sell it, everything's above board. Nobody's selling something without that being registered.
Absolutely, and to prevent the situation like we've seen, I forget off the top of my head, the name of the other complex where this issue came up, where somebody wanted to sell a unit, a closing attorney finally said, no, we need the certificate of compliance, and, we had to go back and, this is more with the stormwater management system, so we came up with a plan that what needs to be done to the system before they can get the certificate of compliance, and I think they are working on it.
That actually dovetails into our next agenda item
Yeah.
coming up, because we have a request for certificate of compliance with respect to 314 Dunstable Road.
So, yeah, I think,
That's that project up by the west.
I think there's some similar sorts of issues. Katie turned out she couldn't be here tonight. She'll be here on the 14th, but
Okay.
this is a similar sort of situation where I've seen some pretty significant deviations in the as-built conditions versus what the approved plans showed. And so the commission needs to come up with a plan to deal with that. And I'm not sure at this point what it's going to be.
That's where that means the paperwork was correct, because when you compare the paperwork to what's on site, you see there's a difference.
Yes, but I don't know who's requesting the certificate of compliance at this point. I don't know if it's a developer. My understanding is that road has already been accepted as a town road. And, again, hindsight's always 20/20.
Is this where they took the,
We did a site walk up there.
Yeah, we did a sidewalk.
Katie was there,
oh,
Yeah. So,
Six houses.
right on the
oh,
Westford line.
Nabnasset
Almost-
Road?
Almost to Westwood line.
Dunstable.
Yeah,
It's Nabnasset Road, though.
yeah,
Oh,
the new
yeah,
road.
Yeah, it's called that, yeah.
in my opinion, the town really shouldn't have accepted it, without a certificate of compliance, but, that's water over the dam now. We'll see if there's a way to address the issues that I'm concerned with. So we'll talk about it when
right.
Katie's here.
The same problems that happened at Grist Mill are gonna happen across the street, because we have nothing on that project.
Yeah,
We never signed anything.
yeah.
We
Which
ne-
project?
The restaurant and the condos upstairs.
They still haven't come before us for that.
No.
Right?
I don't even remember signing it off.
Well, they do have an order of conditions, that again, I'm quite sure has
It's
been
not on the
recorded.
building.
Yes, there was one for the building.
We have not had a hearing on the Odd Fellows Hall. We had a hearing on the parking lot where the condominiums were gonna be built, which was denied by planning.
Yes, that's true, yes.
We approved the condos, and we were promised there would be plans to come forward
Forward.
once the
Right.
restaurant was,
And we
Know
have
what they were
not,
doing.
and we have not seen them.
But he's been working,
No,
Right.
but the planning board has seen them. But we
planning
haven't
board's-
seen them.
Right.
Now, it's
I know what you're saying.
we need to hear it, but it's probably relatively minor compared to what the condos require us, what work we had to do for the condos. Because the area that's, the Oddfellow building straddles the stream. That's the area that's conservation responsibility.
Right.
As opposed to the condominium, in the parking lot was the whole stream and the whole wetland area.
That's another situation where we were promised some things that weren't delivered.
Yeah?
We were
Well,
told that when that.
We were promised they'd come before us, which
Right.
they saw fit not to.
Right, but we signed off on that project, which included that that Oddfellows was part of that project, so it
Oh, I
was
don't
signed
think
off
I
on.
don't think we did.
We
my
approved the
conten-
project, but that was all one big thing there. It was never, we never looked at any specific plans.
Right.
I agree with that. But I think we signed off on the whole project, which included that. I think
Including the
we-
Fisk House?
It included the
Oddfellows.
Oddfellows.
Well, there
Yeah,
is,
but the whole project, it was the Fisk House and the Oddfellows and the parking lot.
well,
That was
there
never our
is an order,
jurisdiction.
there is an order of conditions. Maybe it is just for the parking lot. I can go back and take a closer look at it. I know it included a patio as well that
Right.
I think they're working on right
Yeah.
now.
Patio was not part of the parking lot. Patio is part of the Oddfellows.
So it wasn't a
But
grease
there was-
trap and things
We
like
did
that.
walk around that building. We did when we did that day, we did the parking lot and we walked up around the Oddfellows building.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we walked all around the front.
Well, we don't know
down
that-
the stream.
The only question is there an order of conditions on the Oddfellows building?
I know that there's an order of conditions.
Whether it's part of the parking lot or separate, I don't know.
There is an order of conditions that references a plan that shows a patio.
Yes.
And it doesn't show the grease trap,
No.
but it does show the
I
patio.
don't remember ever discussed having to. do we
Because
wanna
it
do this,
wasn't
Chris?
an issue,
Do you
because they
wanna-
didn't know what they were gonna do with the
That's right.
restaurant.
Right, at that point.
Well, they,
Too early for plans.
they did the grease trap, and it was a pretty big grease trap.
Right, and it was
so-
within 100 feet of the stream. And they should have come before us, and they didn't.
Right.
And we should have shut the project down.
Right.
I think with our new agent,
Well, I
Things
mean,
gotta be cleaned up.
I think we've had some great progress in the last year and a half here.
Right. I
Honestly,
think
I mean,
with
we're,
Dave-
at
I
number
think
one,
with-
we're getting a lot more visibility to stuff.
right, I
know?
think Dave does a great job, and it's,
Thank you.
he follows up on things that
Exactly.
were,
So I
he
think,
didn't follow up on before.
I think we're getting, a lot more kind of intelligence around what's kind of happening or not happening,
Right.
as the case may be. So I think, the trend is up.
Going forward, we're in good shape.
Exactly. But anyway, let's move along the agenda here. The next item on the agenda was placement of a shed.
No, what about this?
Yeah,
order
what
of
about
conditions?
Dunstable Road? What do we?
Well, we got to wait till next meeting.
Right, that'll be
Do
on
you
for the
want to
next meeting.
continue it? Oh, you don't have to continue that, it's not a
No,
hearing.
we just kind of discussed it. No, we're good. We're good. And we'll deal with it next hearing. She'll be here the
Yes.
14th.
Yes.
So anyway, moving along, the placement of a shed on Shore Drive.
Yeah, on this
So
one.
that's a Carlin agent update.
Yeah, I was
Carl.
made aware of this, that out on Shore Drive on Freeman Lake, that is a property right there, right on the water. Our property is just below that. And there's a shed there, I think you have a picture, yeah. The shed was put there, the walkway there with the stones.
Oh, the walkway was put in?
Yes.
As well?
I'm told the walkway and the shed were put there, but I don't know. That's just what I saw. I drove by, took a picture, and I think
But it's on private property, Carl.
it is private property. I
But it's
believe-
within 100 feet of the wetlands.
Yeah, I don't, no, I think the shed was, I don't think, there's no foundation or anything like that. I think it's just sitting on the ground. So it's,
Who owns the property?
I
You know?
looked it up. It's actually a homeowner.
You know where this is,
It's a
guys?
homeowner just around the corner who doesn't
You know where
have
this is?
water.
Remember, it wasn't a difficult discussion. We had a long discussion with a guy who wanted to clear cut from his house right down to the water.
Right.
And it crossed Shore Drive, and we let him do it
Right.
under minor activity kind of thing. This is if you're standing at his house, looking towards Freeman Lake, this is to the right of his property. I don't know whether it's still his property, or, that's why I asked the question, who owns it. I don't think I'd recognize the name either. So the point is that it appears as if a pathway and a shed were constructed within 100 feet of the wetlands without somebody filing an RDA or an NOI. Correct?
I mean, that looks like impervious surface for the walkway. I mean,
So why don't we just require this guy to file a notice of intent?
I think it's sand.
sand.
Well, maybe an RDA.
Well, yeah, we can do.
We do an RDA
Then we can
first.
make him do.
We could.
That way we can make him do it twice.
We could. Until we learn more. Yeah.
I move that we, is that fair enough with you, David Kunz?
To file an RDA
Yeah.
for, would be after the fact for,
After the
for
fact.
for the shed and the
Yeah.
walkway?
So I move that we don't know who the property owner is, though, do we? Okay, we don't know the street address, do we? Oh, we know the parcel. All right, I move that we request the owner of parcel 1894-1 on Shore Drive to file an after-the-fact request for determination for construction of a shed and pathway?
Yeah.
Is that walkway, is that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, motion by Mr. McLaughlin. We have a second on that?
Do we want him just to come in here first and speak with him?
No, let's make them spend some money.
Okay.
It's only $75, but we have more problems with people that live around Freeman Lake who think that they can do anything because it's their property.
I tend to agree with Dave, you know, a little bit of,
Is that a second then?
I'll second that.
That sounds like a second to
That
me.
sounds like-
Second.
Throw in the second.
Yeah,
All in favor?
I mean, it
Yeah,
just
all
gets,
those in favor, aye. Any opposed? Opposition? No opposition, all right. Motion carries. All right, let's see now. Acquisition of Wilson Lane, parcel 29-104-18. Vote is possible.
so, yeah, so this is the property that many of us went out and visited a couple of months ago, Wilson Lane, which is off of Main Street in West Chelmsford. And the owner of this property, the owner of this lot, apparently had a house at the end of Wilson Lane, sold the house, split this lot off. They own this lot, I think they live in Connecticut or something like that, and they just want to offload it. They're not, they don't want to keep owning it. And so they offered it to the town, and we think it would be worthwhile to pick up.
Yeah.
And so if you can go to full screen on this.
I don't know if I can, is that this?
Right, no, just to the left of your thing. Keep going just to the left. One more, right, one more, right there, slideshow.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do
There you go.
earlier.
Yeah, so, yeah, the subject property is there. Wilson Lane is just to the left of that. And the property, the town of Chelmsford owns some conservation property, which is up and to the right, which is a long piece of land that goes all the way out to Meadowbrook Road, runs right along the canal and to some extent Stony Brook, although you can see Stony Brook really peels off. The rail company owns a lot of that land on the bottom right where Stony Brook is. And so this would be a good piece of the puzzle for us to own, and it makes a lot of sense. The piece of land on the bottom left that says Stony Brook Wilson Trust is actually in land size, it's just about equivalent to the piece that we own now plus the new piece that we're looking to buy. That's where the path is from the end of Wilson Road. When you walk down, it's on right along that yellow line. That's the path, right along that border. David is going to try and request from them either an easement or for perhaps the town to buy that property.
So right now, we don't have clear access,
That's correct.
unobstructed access. So why should we buy it until we have that?
Well, we still have the property just to the right.
So we can get to this property?
From Meadowbrook
From
Road,
Meadowbrook
yes.
Road.
We see you come all the way down here, and it looks like there's a path pretty well already exists.
David and I walked most of that one day, almost the whole way. We didn't start at the Meadowbrook end, but I'm fairly sure it starts down there. You can start down there.
And just one other thing I'll add, Carl, is you see this piece right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
That on the survey plan
Can you make
for
that any brighter, David, or not?
any brighter.
No, you can't do anything to it.
On the survey plan, the plot plan that I was provided for this piece, it shows this piece right here is being owned by the town. Although there's no ownership shown on the assessor's database. So it may be that we also own this piece right here.
Right.
Have to-
How much is it?
it's
It went up.
Assessed value, which in December it was 28 something, and in January it jumped up to 33 something.
Just the way your house is gonna go up in value.
Yeah,
Everything in town was reassessed,
right,
but your tax rate will go down.
right.
So whether or not we would be asked, whether or not we would agree with them at the 28 to the 33, I don't know.
Who negotiates the price?
Well, I think it's being offered at a certain price.
Who does that, Paul?
Well, I've been talking to the landowner. I
Do you
can,
have the authority to offer a price?
well, I can.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing.
Right, I think the way it would work is I can confirm with him
Subject to?
what the asking price is.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's gonna come down to what Carl just mentioned. Is it gonna be the 28, which was true up until
At
a
the
month
time.
ago? Or is it gonna be now the 33?
Maybe they haven't looked, so don't say it.
They know now.
They know now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, just,
Yeah.
the
So
30,000 people that are out there listening to us right now.
Interestingly, that piece of land, the Wilson Trust property that's 4.7 acres, is assessed at, what did we say, 5,000 plus or
Yes,
minus?
yeah.
And
It already
I was
has
kinda
a
like, how
restriction
can
on
that be only 5,000 when the little lot we're talking about is 28 to 30, and you said the reason is?
It already has some kind of a restriction on it that was required by the Board of Health, because for a property that the same owner wanted to develop somewhere else in town. I can get the details on that, but that's why the assessed value is so low.
Yeah, so, to me, if we make an offer to buy that, if we can contact, he's talked with, there's a brother-sister, and he's talked with the brother who's like, yeah, sure, but the sister hasn't
Haven't spoken to her yet.
responded yet, so. I gotta think we could get an easement at a minimum, but for $5,000, it's like, well, it's just, or $6,000 or whatever, let's just buy that.
The only question I guess I have is this the best way for conservation to spend $30,000? I think it is.
All right, we got an answer to that.
No, I can't answer my own question. I don't know what, I'm asking what you guys think.
I think this, yeah,
I
I think.
would agree, Dave, but I think the answer is yes.
I have a comment, Dave. I had a chance to listen in on the state's release of the new, help me out here, David, biomap,
Yes.
which, had a couple parts of Chelmsford in it, but what they did is they went to the biomap thinking about biodiversity and identified even more areas and made the strong recommendation that conservation commissions and others consider buying up little parcels that are connected
That's right. That's
to
what
those
this is, yeah.
biodiversity corridors, which are essentially the streams and a few little forest parcels in a town like Chelmsford. So I don't know if financially it makes sense or not. I don't have enough experience to comment on that, but
There's-
the idea of
There are a
adding
number of
makes
small
sense.
parcels abutting this that are currently owned by the town of Chelmsford. Whether they're owned by the Conservation Commission or not, I'm not sure, but they are connected.
Yep.
It goes all the way up to Route 3, I believe.
Yeah, and the fact that it's adjacent to rail property and the brook. It's, there's a development there you can see on the right, but it's a.
You got the canal out there too,
It's a
right?
really good connection
Yeah.
piece of property. It really is. It's got a lot of invasives. The technical term would be shitload of invasives, but it's still, it's a good property, so.
Who owns the dam?
I looked
Hey,
into
go to-
that, I
go to-
looked into that at one point,
Go to,
Dave.
just hit the right
The,
arrow on your thing, it'll go to the
At
next
one
page.
point,
no,
it
right.
was the mill, the owners of the mills owned it, and then it was conveyed over to the town back in 1948
So if you,
or something.
yeah, if you look at that, that green line is, that is the cart path, and the dam is right where, I've got the arrow pointing to the dam and the canal, and you can just see where, it's right where the green
Yeah.
meets with, and it's roughly in that area. I think that's on our property. I believe that is our
There was
lot
a-
right now.
For some reason, I looked into it a few years ago, and there was a deed from the mill owners owned that, the canal and the dam, because it was feeding water into the whole system.
Yeah.
It was deeded over to the town, and then town meeting accepted it some years back.
Okay.
Ah.
And that's the canal that runs all the way to Freeman Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
right near the last discussion we had on the shed.
Right.
See how things connect?
It all
The basics, the
connects,
shed.
all connects.
Well, and that reminds me, thank you, Chris. And actually, that reminds me that the owner of the subject parcel has suggested that we take a look at the deed to that parcel that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
See if that came with it, with deeded access from Wilson Lane down to the dam, which seems to make sense.
Well, I
Yeah.
thought that's what he was looking at.
Well,
The lawyer.
they looked at the title for this 28-104-18,
Oh.
but I think it's possible, right, that the deeded access could actually come in the deed to the parcel that actually
Yeah.
has the dam, right?
Yeah.
It'd be nice to be able to get off from Wilson Lane down to the,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that property.
I've walked down there a couple times. The lady in the house right to the net, she waved when I walked down. She was out on the back deck. You know, I think they get visitors down there a lot, so, you know.
Yeah, there are another 10 acres to the, if that's northeast, that are owned by the town of Chelmsford, that goes all the way,
Right arrow.
follows
You
the
get
stream,
pictures,
goes
yeah.
all the way up to Route 3.
Yeah.
I think it's a good
Yeah.
piece to
So,
get.
Dave, you gonna make a motion?
What kind of a motion do you need?
I think we
Do we
move
just
to
move to
support.
support
Yeah, move to
the
support.
acquisition?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, to recommend the acquisition of the purchase, and then I will go to the CPC committee in February and make the request for the funding. So that's the other part of this, is that if we use CPC money, one of the requirements is that we need to get a conservation restriction. And this little chunk of land, what is it, an acre and a half or an acre or whatever?
1.34,
Is
yeah.
not a lot of land for anyone to want to hold the CR, like the Land Trust or Sudbury Valley or
Do we
Audubon.
hold the CR
So-
on our own property, or is that like? against
No,
the-
you need a third party,
Third
but
party,
what
okay.
Paul said, and we were having this conversation in the CPC meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever we had the meeting, and Paul said, and apparently there's a precedent with one of the other buildings in town that was acquired with CPC money that was supposed to have some kind of restriction, that if you can't find anybody to hold it, you're not doing anything wrong. It just sits there, and that's just the way it is. So he said, it's perfectly fine to do this.
But you can make it Article 97 land by making sure it's under the care, custody, and control of the Conservation Commission in the warrant article.
Yeah, so the
Let's do
request
that.
would be that
And
the
we will make
warrant
sure that-
article
Yes.
is worded that it
Yeah.
goes right to us as opposed to the select board and then.
Yeah, exactly, right to us.
The land that it becomes adjacent to, we don't know if that's conservation land or just town land.
It is conservation.
Where do you
How
mean?
was that
It
help?
says GIS. No, that's just conservation land like all our restrictions, all of our reservations. And the only ones that you have to have a CR for is if it's acquired with CPC funds, which.
So that could have been
Warren
acquired
Poll-
other way, yeah. All right, I move that we support the acquisition of parcel number 29-104-18.
All right, motion by Dave.
Off of Wilson Lane,
All right, motion.
for no more than the assessed value?
Yes, though the request, Paul suggested that we make the request at CPC for, I think he said for 35 to help cover some legal costs.
Like probably a survey, a new survey should be done, yeah.
All right, so for 35,000, not to exceed 35,000.
Second.
Seconded by, so that was motion by Mr. McLaughlin, second by Mark. Any discussion before we vote? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. All right, very good. Very good. Let's see. Next up, we have a CPA application for transfer to the Land Maintenance Fund.
So this is the one that David and I been talking about, and Dave McLaughlin as well, about the idea, and David had this from Boxborough, from his experience in Boxborough, where for us to have set aside some money every year through CPC, so we can access money in the CPC, I think it's a $50,000 fund, when we go request it for something specific. What this proposal is to make the request to just get 10,000 every year that we can then use sort of at our discretion for CPC-related or CPC
CPA allowed,
CPA-allowed expenditures.
without having to keep going back to the CPC
Yeah,
for
so,
approval
so
every time.
for example, right now, we're having to deal with the surveying on Warren Pole and some of the expenses that just keep coming up, and it gets to be kind of a hassle to keep going back to the CPC and say, oh, yeah, we got 3,000 last month, can we get another 1,000? And so, it could be that we want 20,000 some year, but right now, I think the request would be for 10,000 for.
So, and what happens if we don't, if we get it, but we don't spend it?
I think it would roll back.
To CPC or go to the general fund?
No, it would stay in the land maintenance fund.
Stay in our fund.
Right,
We'd roll it
that's right.
over in our budget.
That's right.
Is there any restrictions on the money?
Yeah, it has to be used for CPA type work, which is improvements to property. So it's not maintenance.
Right.
It would have to be an improvement.
But we have a separate annual appropriation account for maintenance.
Right. Right, so things like doing an invasive management plan for a site, doing surveying, doing, building new trails, putting a new trail in on a site, things like that, new kiosks.
I support the idea. I think that we ought to make sure, though, that once the 10,000 comes into conservation, any of those monies that are gonna be spent get a vote of the Conservation Commission to spend them when it's time to spend them.
I think that makes sense, that that way we can just make things happen with a vote here versus having to go to the next CPC meeting.
Yeah.
Which, it may be months before the next meeting, although if I ask, we can have a meeting. But to David's point, in the end, it's not a must, it's kind of, it just makes things a little easier and faster for things to happen.
Hey, sounds like a great idea to me.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
How is what you're proposing different from the existing open space capital improvement fund they already have?
It's not different, it's that we would be saying, can you just give us 10,000 that we'll manage?
So it's just for conservation, not
Yes.
for all of open
Yes.
space? Okay.
As
That's-
opposed to asking for individual project money from CPC.
Right, and keep having to go back.
And go, every time we need 2,000 or 1,000, we have to go back to them.
Right.
Yeah, and I like the idea that we still vote on,
You'll have the financial controls.
yeah, the visibility to it.
Yep, oversight, financial control. I like it. All right, so do we need to take a vote now, or?
Yeah, I'd like a vote because I will bring this up at the next CPC meeting in February, so I'll
All
have
right.
these two requests.
And you have a copy of the Boxborough warrant
And
article.
I'll write it up like the Boxborough one, change I think the account name is different, but yeah, it's the same idea. And to me, 10,000 feels right. And this would be for the fiscal year '24, so we wouldn't have access to this till July.
Okay.
But with things like this property, for example, if we buy this property, I mean, we could spend some money on this, doing improvements to that. There is so much invasive there, we could do
Okay.
something there. There's plenty of places.
So we need a motion then to, of support to approve a CPA application for a transfer to the Land Management Fund of amount up to $10,000 for the fiscal year 24.
So move.
Moved by Dave,
Second.
seconded by Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good, unanimous. All
Thank
right,
you.
excellent, good.
Just as a quick reminder, if you guys get a chance, go on the GIS and look at the parcel at the end of Wilson Lane, because by the time you put that together with all the other conservation land that abuts it, you're talking almost 25 acres.
Wow.
So,
That's good.
last call.
All right, good. Okay, then under discussion, the last item for discussion is our tree master plan proposal for an MCOG grant application. Peter?
Well, before Peter's done, what is it that we're being asked to do?
For what?
This.
For
Is this just informational?
I don't know. Peter?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you didn't, I'm sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
You're stealing my thunder, Dave.
I figured the chairman knew what the heck we were about.
No,
I'm embarrassed.
I know no more than anyone else on
No,
this one,
no,
except for Peter.
There's no voting here, so, as the new guy, I feel like I should give you like 3-4 minutes of where this thing came from, so you can help me either go in the right direction or.
No, the only
give us
thing,
some
Dave, I
ideas.
did know that he wanted to talk about trees. That I did know.
I can tell that.
That was about it.
All right, so here's the deal. I joined the tree committee in June, and I got my 3-hour briefing on all of the past transgressions against trees in town. And I said to myself, I got some ideas for some solutions on how to fix some of these things. But then I went back and looked at the tree committee charter,
There's a second mistake.
which I bet you wrote it. Did you write it?
No, I didn't write it.
He read it, though.
And I realized that everything that I had heard in my new tree committee member briefing was only half of the charter. And the first part of the charter says the tree committee shall develop a tree management plan. And we're not talking about that. So that was my starting point. I then took a look at some of the past town planning documents that say things like Conservation Commission should do an invasive plan or more tree stuff or whatever. It's in a bunch of the past plans. And of course, I'm thinking about the state and federal climate legislation that has a big push for, let's just call it natural attenuation of carbon emissions. But they're also bundling funding for all kinds of things. The commission we just got through talking about land management. So the wheels started turning, and long story short, I got the support of Paul Cohen and Christine Clancy and my tree committee chairman, Jim Martin, and Ken Lefevre, I met him for the first time, at a tree committee meeting to request funding or technical assistance from MCOG, still don't say that right, to help the town develop a tree master plan. So Evan Belansky was directed to take the proposal that I wrote for this tree management plan and put it in, regional planning language.
Boy, did he ever.
Well, I asked him, because I said, look, I wrote this as an engineer. I said, I know I'm applying to regional planning people, so I need the buzzwords. So he wrote the thing, and it's ready to be, and Paul Cohen agreed it's one of the town's top 2 or 3 requests during this call for proposals. There's a written RFP that lists climate, housing, and transportation. And it really is a proposal to develop a tree master plan by meeting with all of the stakeholders, it's my word, in town. So in my logic, it's us, DPW, Select Board perhaps, but certainly the Historic Commission and others are interested in. Hear everybody out, then do a best practices review of how other towns are approaching it. I think Evan picked out Acton as an example. They've got a pretty well-developed tree program. And put together this tree master plan with some clear recommendations of what the town can do. Now, meanwhile, the tree committee was working on something that we called a tree manual. It's like half done, which is more like procedures for proper planting and proper maintenance. What the tree master plan would be more than that. It would talk about how the town departments work with each other and what role and responsibility everybody plays. Public and private trees, which gets a little tricky, because you're going to have to end up talking about things like tree ordinances in the plan. Public and private, trees and shrubs, because Jim Martin will tell you there's not much difference between a tree and a shrub. Best practices for operating a tree program, and my favorite is some sort of metric or annual report to the select board on how the tree program is going. So the proposal, you guys probably looked at it, that Evan finally put together was a little bit simpler than what I wrote in terms of scope of work, and that's fine.
But this is just a request for funds from MCOG.
Yeah, but what happened is Evan committed, like, his time to work on this. So I don't know if Paul Cohen asked him to, or you asked, I don't know, but, so long story short, assuming we get, and I've talked to MCOG a bit about it, and Paul has, and so I don't know if this will get funded, but I bet it will. So I simply wanted to ask the Conservation Commission for two things. One is, your involvement heavily, as heavily or lightly as you all want to. And secondly, any ideas that you have going forward. So what I'm picturing is there'll be a project planning meeting later, like a month or two from now.
Who's gonna chair this?
Evan nominated himself. But I told Evan I want to be heavily involved. I don't want to just turn it over to some outside organization to do a study.
Well, the nice thing is we can have you as our designated representative from Concom.
I want to do this because I think it's important, because I just got tired of hearing people complaining about, National Grid didn't have a hearing, or somebody at DPW ran a bulldozer over a tree because nobody put a fence around it. I mean, the solutions are not that complicated. But the other big part of what I'm interested in, of course, invasives too. But there's a couple of key things, like Jim Martin ran some calculations showing the town's losing 1% tree cover per year for each of the last 6 years.
Wow.
Many of you probably know Dave Sperry, who took an engineer's view and used different data and came up with different numbers. So
Yeah,
that's one
I saw
thing
that,
to
but
work through.
I'm not technical enough to know whether the calculations were accurate.
Right, but that's an example of the things that we want to come out of the study, is a process for measuring how we're doing. So this thing can take just about any form I think we want to, because Evan wrote a pretty generic scope of work. And so my view is that at a project kickoff meeting, that's where we're really going to nail down the details of how we're going to do it. So it'll basically, to answer your question, I didn't really answer it, it's basically a joint venture between the tree committee and Evan with probably the young woman Danielle.
So the tree committee's gonna have to have its charter changed to do this.
Well, that's a good question.
Because the tree committee's focus now is on trees on public land, not on private land.
Right, good
So
point.
if we're gonna address the need for a tree canopy in Chelmsford that's adequate, however we define it, they're gonna have, somebody's gonna have to involve the private sector as well as the public.
Right. Totally agree.
The second thing is, when you write documents like this, somebody ought to teach somebody how to use English. I'm sorry, not to toot my own horn, I went to college, I couldn't understand that document. I read it twice. I don't know what it is. It's like a school committee meeting where they speak in their own language.
I'll send you the one I wrote, which was very specific, but I guess I figured that, since I'm new to the grant writing with MCOG, I figured that what you saw was what they're used to.
I have some reservations about supporting this,
Mhm.
only because it looks like it's another layer of bureaucracy. And I don't know I can see this growing like Topsy, and I can't see what the end game is. Is the end game to increase the tree canopy in Chelmsford because of A, B, C, D?
Yes.
Is that the whole idea?
Yes.
And it's gonna be the tree committee's responsibility to do that?
No.
Whose
Well, the
responsibility?
tree committee is an advisory committee.
But who would, maybe we don't
Well,
talk about that.
that's part of this, that's part of the idea.
Who's gonna see that it gets done?
Yeah, well, that's part of the master plan. The
How
idea,
long have you lived in town?
40 years.
Okay. Have you ever seen a master plan get adopted?
Well, have you ever seen me run a project?
We've got,
That's a good
no,
Is that a good answer?
no, I'm sorry, with all due respect to you,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
every 10 years is a master plan.
Yeah.
Hundreds of hours get spent
Yeah.
by a lot of people to draft a pretty damn good document,
Yeah,
which ends up in people's desk drawers.
yeah.
And then 10 years later, somebody pulls it out and say, well, we didn't do that, we did that, we didn't do that, we didn't do that.
Well, we have a member who's on the implementation committee.
And you should have said planning board. Because planning board has, if this may require a change in zoning, which means planning board has to be involved, right? Conservation is involved because most of us, or all of us, have an interest in conservation in its general term, but never forget what our jurisdiction is either.
Right, I just gonna mention that. We've only got 100 feet.
Well, there's some general language in the first paragraph of our bylaw that probably gives us authority beyond 100 feet. But ostensibly, you're correct, Mark, I agree.
I think, Mark, the David Coons and I had a good chat with Jim Martin on the tree committee, last week? About a number of ways we could work closer together. And the biggest thing I see is, and Jim's actually working on this, is a clear specification for how you plant a tree so it'll survive and how you maintain it the first year. And David, you had mentioned, if you don't mind me, I mean, maybe it's for you to say, but that looked like that had some value in some cases for orders of conditions here. But Dave, you're absolutely right. I mean,
The best example we've all seen is up off of, is it Jordan Road? Remember the woman came in, clear-cut her property last year?
Lovett Lane.
Lovett Lane. Why do I keep saying Jordan Road?
Yeah, love it.
Lovett Lane. That's the best example of why we need a comprehensive tree policy in this town.
I think it would, something like that would have been valuable when that Avery property got developed. There was a lot outside of our jurisdictions, and we'd like to have people plant trees, use more of that natural.
Right.
We do.
You know, all we can do is suggest us and encourage them to do it.
That's what we're doing now.
Right, but that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't really get us a lot more trees.
Right.
Right, so, Dave, I have a response to your caution, which I totally understand, about layers of bureaucracy and plans sitting in drawers. But I am told by MCOG and Evan that having a master plan puts you in a stronger position for future grants.
Oh, I don't doubt that a
And-
bit. That's
and-
what I call bureaucracy. Right.
Well, no.
No, that's why you want to do it. You want to play the game with the rules that are in place, right?
No, I want to plant trees.
I know, but you don't plant trees unless you can participate in, if the state's got money available for this, you want to get your share of it.
Exactly.
So you can do it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the scope items is to identify grant opportunities. But my understanding is it's going to be a lot easier to get a grant if the town can go before the authorities and say, we did a study, we came up with the following conclusions, we're looking for $300,000 to plant trees on our conservation land. Because it's an energy thing, it's a habitat thing, it's a watershed management thing, it's an open space and recreation for Chelmsford in the center, it might be historic. And so I just want to say this part, my personal interest is, when you're really talking about climate adaptation and resiliency, you're really talking about biodiversity, you're really talking about protecting the town groundwater and drinking water, you're really talking about trees reduce stormwater, you really are talking about habitat, you guys know all this. But I'm just trying to push everybody I talk to be thinking holistically. It's not just, sure, the conservation has a jurisdiction. Sure, the DPW holds the tree warden job. Sure, private developers at the moment, don't really have any restrictions on cutting trees. But in order to really handle climate adaptation and resilience, all those little silos have to work together. And how many times tonight did we hear an example where a couple silos didn't work well together? And so that's really all this climate stuff is about, is we as a society have to find ways to work closer together and meet everybody's needs. So when Evan said, or actually it was Paul Cohen said, he listened to my pitch and he said, yeah, let's call it a tree master plan. That's how we do things. And I said, well, what do I know? I'm new to town government. I'm naive.
We have 500 committees.
Is there a better way?
We have 500 committees in this town,
I
and
know.
every one of them has a master plan.
Is there a better way? Is there a better way for the committee to go about this? Maybe we could have that, let's have that cup of coffee and I'll pick your brain.
No, I don't know what the tree committee's gonna do. I'm not, I mean, I just,
Dave, despite his reservations,
I
he's actually
he's
not
a tree
against,
guy.
he's
No,
not against this
he's a
proposal.
tree guy.
my problem is I don't know what I'm approving when I approve this document, that's all.
I don't think we're asking for approval. The town's
Oh,
already
that's
made
right.
the commit, I'm sorry.
At the outset, I thought that's why it's before the
I'm-
Conservation.
Oh, I'm sorry. When I say support, I mean participate in the planning.
Yeah, we're not, yeah.
I'm sorry. I
We're
wasn't
just-
clear.
We're
I'm
just,
sorry.
this is just a preliminary phase
For how
of
much money?
developing.
For how much money?
To be determined.
So we don't know how much money we're asking NEMCOG for?
Well, I have a number.
Who will put the number down, Paul?
Well,
Or
that's a
Evan?
very good question. What happened, Dave, is I wrote a pretty detailed proposal with labor hour estimates and tasks and, quite a bit of detail. And
What were you thinking of as far as a dollar figure?
I figured 350 labor hours from MCOG, and I was aiming at their recent Cornell sustainability graduate, kind of being a support person, and 350 hours of the tree committee staff, which
Yeah,
is
but they're not
mostly
gonna
me.
get paid.
What's that?
They're not gonna get paid.
No, but there's that in-kind contribution part of these proposals, right?
Okay.
So how does MCOG value 350 hours of a bright, young person out
Well,
of
they
college?
probably value it by the rate they're paying her plus 300% to pay their overhead. That's probably what they do.
Okay, so it's, let's see.
Don't
100
get me
bucks an
going with
hour.
MCOG either.
Well, yeah, we pay for that, right?
Yeah, every year.
Yeah.
You belong.
It's $30,000 from MCOG.
I'll shut up. You guys talk, because let's get this over with so we get out of here.
Well, despite Dave's questions and reservations, I mean, so what are you looking for us, so Peter, what are you looking for us to
Yeah,
be on board here for? Just that we develop a plan?
No, it's pretty simple, is just participate in the planning of the project,
So you want us to participate, okay, so.
which could be just me, could be me and Dave, could be a subset of us.
Okay,
Carl's volunteering.
all right, so let's
I
have
think in
a,
simple terms, it's just a couple of us working on this project
All right.
and seeking advice.
all right, so let's
From
have
you
a
all.
vote then to authorize a Concom representative to participate in this,
Well, we haven't been asked.
well, we can still vote.
Why don't we say we would like to participate?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
good.
super.
Yeah, we'd like to
Thank you.
participate and have a representative in developing a tree master plan. Okay? Moved by Bill. Second? Second by Mark. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Unanimous. All right, good. All right, good.
Thank you.
Vivian?
I just want to plant some trees.
Vivian?
Yes?
I didn't vote.
Oh, we have one non-vote.
No, yeah, non-vote.
Non-vote.
You're abstaining, in other words.
Yes.
Yes, we'll put him down for the abstention.
What does it take to change your mind? A cup of
no,
Hey, you
coffee?
better buy him a lot of coffee.
A lot of coffee?
You don't need, that doesn't mean I'm against it.
Dave's not necessarily against it. He raised some good questions, but he's not, there's no one's talked more about trees in the last 10 years than you have, Dave.
Yeah,
No?
that's true.
No one. All right. We're moving along with the agenda. We might be able to get done before 9, pending, well, Warren poll? Warren poll? We want to say, we don't have to.
We don't have a sign yet.
Yeah, no, still no sign. The CR.
What was the name again of that?
Garside.
Garside. That was the name of the company that said that they were going to have their monument delivered to us. When was that they were supposed to deliver?
October, it would be done. Early,
Well, it was-
first week of October. it would be
Garside
done.
committed to us that they'd have it,
Yep.
and
And here we are
unfortunately,
in
What was their
May.
name again, Chris?
Garside Monuments. Where are they located?
Westford.
Westford, yeah,
It's
Westford.
Garside and Westford.
Do we know why he hasn't done it?
No, but Paul Cohen is chasing it. Paul is our expediter. He's chasing him down.
Deposit to pay
So-
other bills.
Yeah.
It's that.
So we do have,
else would-
the CR is sitting at the attorney, I think it's Mullen, who is the attorney for the land trust, and he's reviewing it, and we're very close to submitting it to the state. And we got the BDR. You should have all got a copy of
Yes.
the baseline. I was impressed. I actually, I won't say I read every page of 180 pages or whatever it is, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I did a quick, she did a good job.
Excellent.
And
And you know what?
I think that's,
That's it.
That's it?
Just to give it, I'm sorry, I was talking,
No, no,
did
no.
you mention CR?
Yes,
Did, okay.
yeah, coming right along. Good, okay,
Yeah, we're almost done.
excellent. That's good.
Well, then we go to the state.
We're almost done.
He said we're almost done.
Could sit
It
with the
doesn't
state
include the
for a
state.
Sit with
long
the state
time.
for 5 years. That's what we've been told. That's all right, we're done.
All right. Okay, that was our, anything else on land management, Carl, you want to
Say,
talk about?
did you mention pollinator on Warren Pole?
No, I didn't.
Sudbury Valley Trustees, which is a private organization in the Sudbury River area, are promoting growing of pollinator plants for bee populations. It's not easier said than done. They have to be unique plants to this area. It's hard to get them, et cetera. Anyhow, they're promoting it. They're selling plant kits for $100 bucks, 100 and a quarter, something like that, per kit, one per person. We're gonna try to plant a pollinator garden at Warren Pole.
Good.
We're trying to find some people who will work with us. We have one other one, Carl and I and Dave, and then this other one. We hope that she will help us, at least give us some advice.
Oh, she will, yeah.
It's not, the hard part's gonna be getting the plants to take and not die off.
Keep the critters out.
Yeah, you gotta, the rabbits and deer love them.
What about beaver?
All right. Very good. So that was our land management update. Agent report, 201 Boston Road.
So they are working on the RDA. I am assisting in that. I think it will
Is it that
be-
difficult?
So I think it'll be ready for submission probably by the end of this week.
Oh, okay.
You know, maybe that'll be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Certainly by the meeting after that.
All right. Good. Good. Okay. Then for approval signature, grant of a brick walk easement for 44 Central Square. Is that something we?
Yes, so I just give some brief background on that. So this is the easement plan right here. This lot 3 here, let me zoom in a little bit more.
So that wasn't part of the parking lot, huh?
Was what not a part of it?
The easement land, that's the shaded area there that we're
Right.
talking about, I always thought that was part of the parking lot in the first place.
No, they wanted to give it up because they couldn't
they?
develop it. The owners.
Of the parking lot, you mean the guys on the West Coast?
I don't know.
No, I'm done.
No, I don't, you could be right, I don't know.
I think you are. I think Dave is right.
Yeah,
Well, the easement actually.
So
is-
when we bought the parking lot, it did not include this strip of land? When the town bought the parking lot?
Correct. I mean,
Okay.
you see this lot 3?
Why didn't it?
This lot 3 right here, that's owned by the Oddfellows
Yeah.
Corporation.
Where's your arrow, Dave?
Right here.
I can't see it, I'm sorry.
So,
Up by the building?
well, this is the boundary of lot 3.
I can't. Can I see, is that clearer up there?
It might be easier to see it there.
you drive at night, Dave?
Not tonight, I guess.
Yeah, who's driving Dave home?
See, this is lot 3, right here, and it includes the building. And it's only that portion of where the brook walk is proposed to go that needs the grant of easement, because that's privately owned.
Okay, now the new state regs say we can't build a walkway closer than 25 feet to the stream?
No, there are no state regs as far as I know.
No, but we got a letter on file from the DEP telling us when the condo project was under development. Because it was news to us at the time that we thought we could go almost up to the, and we can't anymore. So I'm assuming that the easement that we're gonna get allows us to build a walkway far enough from the stream.
Well, because, but see, the walkway is exempt. As long, that's why we needed the easement.
You haven't seen that letter from DEP, have you?
No, I haven't, but.
I'll find it.
But but the background has been explained to me.
Roughly, where would the walkway go?
Let me.
Does anybody have any idea yet or not?
I can answer that question.
Well,
I will give you a sneak preview of the walkway. So I don't know which plan is better to look at. So let me zoom in here. So this is the this is the proposed
Yeah.
walkway, right here. But see, it's exempt, because it's for conservation purposes, it's exempt from the performance standards. But, I mean, there is some additional work.
Pervious, it's all pervious, there's no impervious.
Right, it's
Well, that's
pervious.
different from what that letter from the state told us when Jay was
Well,
wanting to build this.
because I don't think it was being considered for conservation purposes.
Oh,
Here.
back then, no, I don't, you got,
Here.
Jay was gonna give that land to the town.
And if he had given it to the Conservation Commission, then I think it would have.
Well,
qualified
that's
for
what
the
I meant.
exemption.
Okay.
But this is, to be able.
So will this give us access to cross Boston Road?
Cross Boston.
Road, it's nowhere near Boston Road.
Bill Ricker Road. What's the road in the center, what's the road in front of the Oddfellows Hall?
Central Square.
Central Square.
That's the name of the road?
I don't know,
Okay.
the
But
Boston
will it
Road?
give us access to cross the street that goes over to Jack Hanley's building?
No, no, no.
Because that's where you'd want the walkway to go, right? I mean, why would you want the walkway to end at the, behind?
That got squashed when they kept that addition on the bank.
Yeah.
That was in the original mess, I go back to the plan that was drawn.
So why would we want to build a walkway that just stops
Gonna
behind?
remove that, right?
Not
Stops.
now,
No, not now, but they were gonna remove it.
right, in the, call it a master plan.
How much is this going to cost?
I don't recall off the top of my head. There is an estimate.
I thought it was 30 to 50.
Can I assume that somebody knows what they're doing?
The
Yeah, I think
town
so.
engineer drew a plan.
Right, and which is.
That's what we're looking at.
This is plan, yes.
I just don't know what
So-
it's consistent with.
This is a walkway so that when you're eating at the new restaurant, you can go, and you're waiting for the reservation to hit, you can go out for a walk along the brook.
So let them buy the easement.
We're not buying
that-
an easement.
No, so let the Oddfellows get the easement, not the town.
Well, they're conveying the easement.
But
This-
if were you telling me the truth, Carl, or were you joking?
I'm joking. Like, well, you were asking, what is the walkway for? It's just a walkway along the parking lot, that's
But a
all it
walkway
is.
has to start somewhere and end somewhere.
It's a nice little park area along,
The
well,
original master plan for that walkway was fantastic, and I don't think it exists anymore.
this is just.
Went
a
all the
seg-
way up to Summer Street, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it was a great plan.
I mean, this is pretty short as walkways go,
I better shut up so we go.
but it's something.
I don't know where it ends and where it starts.
Yes.
Well, here's where it starts, right up here. Let me.
And where was that, the restaurant?
It's in the back parking lot, that's the
Here's-
back of the
Here's the
restaurant.
Oddfellows building. and
Okay.
So, yeah, it starts in the parking lot in back of the building, and then it ends over here.
At
This is
Summer Street?
No, it's just the back of the parking lot.
Just a little further back in the parking lot.
How many
yeah.
feet is it?
How many feet?
200 or 300 maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Not a football field.
Why do we want it?
Well, does anybody know why the town is proposing
Yeah.
a 200-foot-long walkway behind a
If it's for the
restaurant?
benefit for the restaurant, we shouldn't have to pay for it.
Yeah. And the only thing I came up with is if this thing moves forward, it's a golden opportunity for a little bit of invasive management, some native shrubs on the shore, and a couple of educational plaques. While people are waiting for the martini, they can see that that swamp is, here's the importance.
Yeah, just like the Adiamo people were gonna take care of the knotweed on the other side of the
It
stream.
was a comprehensive 5-year plan.
Thank you.
A master plan.
It never happened.
In the order of
Never
conditions?
happened.
See, everything comes together.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think this is silly.
Whose idea is this, David?
I don't know.
So we don't even know who wants to give can we find out who wants to give the easement, or get the easement? Is it Evan, or is it Paul? Probably Evan.
I think it's another committee, actually.
What?
But yeah,
I'd like to find out.
We may need to have a representative on that committee.
but the name of the committee escapes me at the moment.
So maybe, can we maybe just kind of carry this one over to our next meeting?
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Yes.
like, what's the
Who was-
driver here? That is a really good question.
What's the what,
driver?
Carol?
What's the
Yeah.
driver?
There's some really good questions
What's the-
there.
Who
And what's
wants
the
this
purpose
and
of a
why?
limited pathway?
And what exactly are we being asked?
Well, just to agree, to support the granting, of
Well,
the taking of the easement.
You're being asked to hold the easement.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way to really get the exemption. on
Oh, I
the
see.
wetlands
So it's like a
protection.
permitting strategy. We hold it, so then, otherwise the state would nix it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Well, if that's the case, then we should get as big an easement as we possibly can.
And we should understand why this is being put in there.
That path used to go out to, it used to follow the sewer line and go out to Summer Street.
Yeah, but I bet you Oddfellow, behind
On the wrong
Summer
side of the
Place, they own that land behind Summer Place where you'd put a walkway too. So it's probably limited because we're only dealing with the Oddfellows people, right?
Yeah.
We're not dealing with anybody else.
Right.
All right, well, we had a lot of questions, I would say.
Okay,
I like
I'll
these kind
I'll look into getting those.
There you go. A lot of questions, all right. Thanks, David. And, okay, so moving along here, minutes of January 10th. Did you send those out, and am I just
I
missing them?
haven't even started them yet.
All right, I was gonna say, I didn't think I saw
Pages
them.
of notes and a headache.
All right, okay, good.
All right.
All right, so,
Good meeting tonight.
I move that we adjourn. Or actually, no, I can't move to adjourn.
I move.
He moves to we adjourn. So we have Carl
Second.
and Peter.
Well, I guess they don't have to be seconded.
Peter, well, all in favor? Yes, aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is ended. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
You were off the year before you.